I am welcome. I am Dr. JoAnn Atkins, and it is my pleasure to welcome you to Hot Tub Therapy. I've been talking about it, and here it is, Hot Tub Therapy. And joining me today is my friend, my cohort, Mia Hextall.
Yeah.
I don't want to mispronounce your name. Beautiful spirit who has just been encouraging me to do this. So without delay, I'm going to introduce myself and then Mia is going to introduce herself and then we're going to move it along. Um, Again, I'm Dr. JoAnn Atkins. I live here in the Atlanta area. I am a practicing certified Christian counselor. Most of my clients are couples, as God would have it. However, I do see individuals. I do in-person and virtual therapy. I'm also a yoga instructor and a pretty serious bike rider. I'm a mom, I'm a grandmom, I'm a wife, and I'm a friend, a sister, auntie, cousin, really big family. Just want to welcome you all again. Thank you in advance for joining us. And Mia, go ahead. You can introduce yourself.
Yeah. So I'm so grateful to be here with you. You're so amazing. And hi, everyone. So my name is Mia Hextall, aka the Mystic Therapist. I am a creative arts psychotherapist, a shadow work practitioner, psychic medium, and tarot reader. And today we are so grateful to share this space,
Yeah,
and come together and just share divinely guided wisdom and to talk about Dr. JoAnn's book, The Chair, that I believe is we need it so much right now. Because as y'all know, the gender wars on social media is becoming a bit out of hand. Okay. So we need some help, we need some guidance, we need some assistance. So we're coming to you with some therapeutic perspectives, and we welcome you to, oh yes, fabulous. Yes. We welcome you to grab yourself a cup of tea, some water, and get cozy and just vibe with us. So,
absolutely.
mhm.
So I do want to go ahead and take this moment to introduce the chair. I feel like I'm sitting a little low, so I'm going to pop up. Let me just grab my phone. You see it really good now?
Yes.
Okay. So I released the chair in June of this year, and it is available on Amazon.com. The chair is a relationship therapy study guide. So the chair is based around a story, right? Because that's what life is. It is a series of stories, one connected to another, one causing another. So, anyway, let me share with you the story, the chair.
Mhm.
And let's just have some discussion. Um, First off, the chair was inspired by um, a lady she was actually very close to me. We'll say
Mhm.
that because I don't want to reveal personal information. You have to get the book. But anyway, she was speaking at a conference,
Mhm.
and her theme was the chair.
Mhm.
She began to unwrap this story about her and her husband. Now she was married to a pastor, and they went to, we'll say, Chicago, to a conference, and they were meeting her sister and husband, who were also pastor and pastor's wife. Okay, and so when they arrived, they located them at the venue, and they're walking toward them, and she noticed there was only one chair.
Mhm.
And so her husband sat in the chair and commenced to greet her sister and brother in law and left her standing. And she just, in her own words, I believe, because I did hear this story 30 years ago, such an impactful story, but she just got in her feelings, right? That's what we say today. I think she probably said she lost it or something like that, right? So, uh, so anyway, she stood there and she said she just felt every emotion. She was angry. She was embarrassed. She was humiliated. She felt disrespected. She felt belittled. Just on and on, all these negative emotions. And never once, did her husband even notice her. She was just shrinking into this ball of mess. And her brother-in-law happened to notice that she didn't have C. And it felt like forever to her, but honestly, it was probably just a few seconds. So anyway, he hopped up, gave her his seat, and he went and found another chair, came back and sat down. So she sat, and she couldn't shake it. She could not, she couldn't shake it. And her sister reached over and touched her hand and asked her if she was okay. And she said yes. And she just continued to just look forward. You know that feeling, right? Just look forward. And service started. Everybody was engaged, right? They were having a really good time. But she wasn't.
Mm-hmm.
She was stuck in the chair.
Mm-hmm.
She was stuck literally in the physical chair. She was stuck in the chair in her head. She was still ruminating the the way it looked, and how bad she felt. And she couldn't engage in church. She couldn't give it over to the Lord. She couldn't pray it off. And she wasn't willing to go to the altar and share and let it go. She sat there smoldering, smoldering. I know there's a viewer who's relating to this.
It's a smoldering for me. I'm like, oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
And so the service is over, right? And they get in the car to leave, to go back to their hotel. And she just dives in. She lets him have it.
Mm-hmm.
She lets him have it. She goes up one side, down the other. Um, there's crying, everything but cursing. But she said she really just let it go on him. And he didn't say a word, just drove. And so when they got back to the hotel, um, he grabbed his suitcase and started packing. And she wanted to know, like, what are you doing? And he said, we're leaving. We have grown children, we have grandchildren, we've been together a long time, and we've got some work to do. If we're in a space where something like a chair can ruin your whole evening, something like a chair can rob you of your joy, hold you prisoner for however long service went on. Um, he says, yeah, he says, we have to go. So they leave.
Mm-hmm.
They leave. Now, what I added to the story, it's not the way the story was told to me. I added that she goes back and she sees a therapist. And the therapist asked her if there was any other alternative behaviors available to her,
Mm-hmm.
if she could think of a one. And she just admitted, she said, in the moment I was just hurt. I was this, I was that. And so, the therapist encouraged her to really think about the first time, the first time that she felt like that with him? Or, was it from another relationship? Where did that bag come from?
Mm-hmm.
The therapist challenged her and said, because what if you had tapped him on the shoulder and said, babe, I don't have a chair. Is it possible that he would have given it to you? Of course. Of
Mm-hmm.
course, he would have given her
Mm-hmm.
the chair.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe another option available to her would be, what if she sat on his lap?
I was thinking that ever. I'm like, a little lap situation.
I mean, come on, let's face it. Maybe he would have got a booty rub out of it, would have set the evening up
Mm-hmm.
with something special a little later. I'm just
Mm-hmm.
saying,
Mm-hmm.
right? Right. Just as an option. I'm just as an option, as an option.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So those are two that, come to my mind. And I'll give it to you. What do you think? Let me ask you this question. Since you hadn't read it and the version of the chair story came from me, it's coming from me. What do you think the moral of the story is?
The moral of the story is really, we're human. We're human beings, and we're not mind readers, and sometimes we can, not consciously all the time, but sometimes we can make other people's behaviors about us. And it's not always about us. It's really not. And take it so personally. And when it comes to having harmony in a relationship, in a romantic relationship, sometimes we have to be willing to give our partners the benefit of the doubt and just communicate, communicate, right?
Yes.
And so
Yes.
there's just there's more than one way to handle things. And so knowing that we have options for alternative ways to handle things, it just opens up the space. So that's
Right.
what I took from it. That's what I took. Yeah.
So, going back to the book,
Mm-hmm.
I hit on a few um, morals of the story.
Mm-hmm.
And one is choose your battles wisely. Choose your battles wisely. Seriously, a chair?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, think about it, right? And that's why that's the name of the book. That's why that's the name of the story, because the chair literally represents our pettiness.
Mm-hmm.
It represents our pettiness. If if I'm willing to let a chair get into my spirit, rob me of my joy,
Mm-hmm.
then maybe I need to do a serious self-examination.
Mm-hmm.
Because the question becomes, is it really the chair? Because the chair is petty. So that's one. I think the other one is also that just the realization that everything is just not even argument material. Everything is really not fight worthy. Everything is not, again, worthy of robbing us of this moment.
Mm-hmm.
If you're willing to let it be a chair, then you might be willing to let it be, the dishes, the shoes in the floor, the toilet seat up. Come on, let's just if you petty about the chair, I'm gonna tell you the truth. It's what I do. If you're petty about the chair, you probably petty about 20,000 other things.
Mm-hmm.
Character. It's is pettiness behavior? Is it more ingrained into personality and care? I would like to assign it to not personality, but more to character, something that we can shape and mold and change, right?
Becoming a little bit more unbothered. And as you were telling the story, the first thing that came to mind with the woman is part of me was wondering if, maybe on multiple occasions she was feeling unseen or feeling unheard or feeling uncherished and uncared for. And maybe in some way, shape, or form, that could have been building up, right? And then it's in front of other people, right? And then
Right.
part of me is just wondering if there was like a buildup that was happening. And so I am curious for you when you have couples come in, and obviously we know that the chair is just a manifestation of something more. I mean, it is petty when like the manifestation is very petty, but do we or does your clients or in the sessions, do you find that there's always something more underlying? Sorry, my cat is trying to get up in this right now. Do you find that there's something a little bit more underlying that,
Absolutely.
causes the pettiness, or is it just like people bickering just because?
I don't think people bicker just because, I mean, so let's say, yes, people bicker just because they're petty.
Yeah.
Right. But I think that what I have seen, right, what I've seen is um I've seen people who do have childhood traumas, people who um women who have mama drama trauma, you know, women who have, you know, daddy issues, right? Um, I mean, you think about it, we we suffer, we suffer in this life. It's part of the life. I think that what therapy really helps with, if you allow it to, is to help to minimize your suffering, coming to the realization that so much of suffering we create, right? Like she created suffering in that moment by allowing the chair to bother her. But to what you said, it's layers. It's layers, right? I mean, if you get mad enough over a chair to cuss your husband out and cry, it is not the chair.
Aww.
It's not the chair. It's not.
So I'm so excited about this because I have a one of my best friends. He is getting married, and I'm gonna be in a wedding in a few months next year. But so I'm gonna send them the book because I feel like all couples need to, this happens. But I would like to bring in another perspective on the way that I have been viewing relationships. Because for me, I am someone who's a little bit more in tune with like metaphysics, right? And like the supernatural and like soulmates and things like that. And it's still a framework and concept that I'm developing, but I do believe that like our partners are our spiritual teachers in a way, especially when it's like a partner who we were guided to. Does that make sense? And so when we're in relationship with another, we get to see ourselves, and we get to, in a way, we're kind of forced to look in the mirror. And so relationships can be a place that's very triggering. And so would you say that in this day and time, in order to have a healthy relationship, we have to consistently be doing our own inner work and our own inner reflections, and instead of when our partner is triggering us, constantly projecting onto them and saying you, but kind of turning it around and looking in the mirror and asking the self, like, what is the lesson that I'm learning here, or what is it about this particular thing that's making me feel some kind of way? And if you do feel that way, what are some strategies that you would recommend for people who are navigating doing inner work while they're in a relationship?
So what I would say is you're definitely right. Everybody should be doing inner work at all times. I believe that inner work is part of our calling, is part of our praise, is part of how we seek God, our inner work.
Mm.
It's part of how we get closer to God or to heaven, if you will, right? To let me uproot all of these bad behaviors, this awful thinking, whatever I need to do to make myself, better, better, better. But um, remember that hurt people hurt people. And so if you don't do your own inner work, when you talk about, someone triggering you, it could be that person, or it could be someone else that triggers you. I mean, the thing about it is we have more than one. And that's really why it's important to do our inner work. If we only had one trigger, we don't.
Mm. Oh.
We might have the same reaction, but we don't have only one trigger. And so that's really that's really the motivation for the inner work, right? For the deep dive, as I call it. Are you willing, you know, to to cast your line in deep? We live, we've been programmed to live very shallow. And that's a lot of our problems in looking at relationships, is that we come in with this shallow mind, right? We come in with expectations. Oh, I expect you to take out the garbage. I expect you to pay the bills. I expect you to cut the grass. You've got this list of gender chores. When truth be told, guys, you know this. We all have feminine and masculine energy, and it's just a matter of putting it to work when it's required. And that's where a lot of couples slip and fall, rather than doing what's required, rather than creating balance by covering. And that's another tenet of the chair: covering, the notion of covering and not smothering, right? We smother each other with nagging. We smother each other with our lack. We smother each other with our needs and our expectations. Let all of that go and simply show up and decide for yourself, if everybody is getting this kind of teaching, that you're here to love and to give.
Oh my goodness, this is so beautiful. And thank you so much for bringing up the masculine and feminine. So as I had said earlier, I am a shadow work practitioner. So I have been doing some very, very deep diving into the anima and the animus in our own unconscious mind. The anima being the feminine aspect of our psyche, and the animus being the masculine aspect of our psyche. And in addition to this, also bringing in universal laws as well. So the fact that we unconsciously attract things that are in our unconscious mind. So depending on the health and the wellness of our anima and animus, which is basically our masculine and feminine energy, it dictates the type of energies that we tend to attract to us and be in relationship with. And so something that I have been learning along my own personal journey is, we really, like, when you see that yin yang symbol, it's balanced for a reason. Like,
Right.
we have to have that sacred union within ourselves on our way to, like, individuation and like self actualization, and really, in layman terms, just saying becoming the best version of ourselves. We have to be very mindful of doing our best to balance our own masculine and feminine energies, right? And once we get in tune with that energy, we can kind of dance with it within our relationships, because a lot of relationships over time, I see, they tend to lose certain types of attraction. But throughout my studies, what I'm noticing is that when relationships have polarity, right, that masculine and feminine balance, you're able to maintain attraction, you're able to maintain connection. And it's not, I don't want to say it's not easy. It can be easy with people who are both willing to do their shadow work and willing to do their inner work. But I just think that I wanted to throw these out there for anyone who's listening, who are feeling curious. In addition, to definitely please get the chair, whether you're in a relationship or you know someone else who's in a relationship. We all, even if you're single, it's good to get these tips from, you know, a relationship marriage counselor. I mean, obviously, Dr. JoAnn knows her stuff. She's been practicing for a while. Also, remember, don't forget to do your inner work on your own divine masculine, divine feminine energies. And remember that this is going to also require you looking at your relationship dynamics with your parents and seeing how it may have affected your energies within. Just wanted to throw those out there. And after
Uh,
saying this, yes, Dr. JoAnn, what you know?
yes, all of that's important. And, I would just like to add to that, you know, if you don't do the inner work,
Mm-hmm.
what you will do is you will have repetitive type relationships
Mm-hmm.
just with different people because you're not willing to do the inner work, do the deep dive, and create the change and truly attract the person that is, we'll say, assigned to your soul journey. Instead, because you're still shallow, you're attracting the car, the body, the money, because that's where shallowness is. It dwells in the physical realm. So you have to be willing to take the deep dive. You have to be willing to do the self work and understand too that there are no coincidences. So anything that has happened to you, say to yourself right now, I survived it. I survived it. I survived that mama drama trauma. I survived it. I survived that daddy, present but absent. I survived it. And I can look back at it and I can ask God today, because I didn't ask him then, what were you doing? What did you want me to see? What did you want me to learn? What happened in that moment is relevant for now in a positive, useful, growth, spiritual, closer to God kind of way. Because everything has purpose. We're not just flapping around here on the earth like fish in water. Even the fish have purpose. We do have purpose. You are on a divine assignment. And the sooner you do the inner work, the sooner you start to get on the path that has been laid out for you. The sooner you yield and surrender to the calling, the sooner you disconnect from the past and the pain.
Mm.
People, another big thing, a couple say to me, oh, I'm just not happy. Let me say this. Someone might argue, but happiness is based on what's happening. So if you're creating an amazing moment, you're creating happiness. Don't look at something that happened yesterday and allow it to continue to impact how you feel today. That's really what was going on with the chair. Something that happened in her yesterday, even though was walking in her Christian shoes, she
Mm-hmm.
couldn't forgive. She couldn't move past. And she had layers and layers and layers. And so the pettiness of a chair caused an eruption in her marriage. And that's what we do when we don't deal with it on a deep level, when we don't root it out. Sometimes, I cut down a tree recently, and there is a lot to it. As above, so below. And if you're living your life strictly based on what's above and you have nothing below, you have nothing to support you. You have nothing to give you longevity. You will blow over with the next strong wind. That's what she did. Anything can come up, any chair, anything, anything. Another tenet in the book is that of insecurities. Insecurities, how, we are so focused on the other person And then we just feel smaller and smaller and smaller. And we find ourselves biting and gnawing at the other person's ankle and smothering, right? I didn't talk about what covering was. So, covering is just literally having your partner's back to the max, right? Right? I don't get to fuss about the toilet seat being up. I just put it down. There's a big difference, right? Because if I fuss, first it affects me. It's negative energy. Bam, right? And it's just gonna flow onto something else. I walk out of the bathroom and I'm still grumbling about what? The pettiness of a toilet seat. Come on now.
And after that, come on now. I know this episode is about to close in just a few seconds. So is there anything last words you want to say before? And I think we should definitely have a part two to this because I think we got to touch on those insecurities a lot more for sure.
Definitely. Um, all I would like to say is if you would like to get in touch with me, you can find me at